Welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking a really fascinating review paper on AI's green revolution and looking at exactly why this massive global push for sustainability is crashing head-on into modern tech ethics. Can an AI designed to literally save the planet actually end up hurting the people living on it? Just take a second and let that heavy question sink in. We usually think of green technology as this pure, undeniable good, right? But as we're about to see, the human cost of these rapid, well-intentioned advancements can actually be surprisingly high. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The AI Sustainability Paradox. To really understand this paradox, we first need to look at the whole concept of a circular economy. Basically, this is an economic model aimed entirely at sustainability. So instead of our traditional take-make-dispose system, where we extract resources, build something, and then eventually just toss it in a landfill, the circular economy is all about keeping materials in continuous use. It's like this massive, incredibly complex global puzzle of recycling, reusing, and regenerating. And right now, AI is being viewed as the ultimate tool to manage the whole shebang. It can analyze massive supply chains and optimize waste management in real time at a scale we humans simply can't match.
But here's the core paradox outlined in our source material. While AI is absolutely critical for a sustainable, circular economy, it brings some pretty serious hidden ethical dangers along for the ride. Sure, this tech can optimize recycling and extend the life of our products, but treating AI like some flawless magic bullet, that's incredibly dangerous. If we just deploy blindly without any ethical foresight, we risk unleashing severe algorithmic bias, invading personal privacy on a massive scale, and even displacing vital labor. So it's this really high-stakes balancing act between big environmental wins and very real societal risks.
To see how this tension actually plays out in the real world, let's look at our first case study, Section 2, Smart Bins and Social Divides. The researchers highlight this fascinating scenario based on real-world implementations. Picture this. A mid-sized European city decides to roll out brand-new smart bins on their streets. Now, these weren't your average trash cans. They were these brilliant high-tech units equipped with AI image recognition that could automatically identify and sort your recyclables right on the spot. And to gamify the whole system and get people involved, the city linked these bins to a smartphone app. You recycle right, you get rewarded with points. Sounds like an absolute utopia, right? Just a highly efficient, tech-driven way to clean up the streets. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the immediate, unintended consequence of that system. It was honestly staggering. The tech-savvy app users, they naturally thrived. They easily earned their rewards and got to enjoy all the perks of a cleaner neighborhood. But at the very same time, elderly and low-income residents were entirely shut out of the system. Surveys showed that a lot of seniors found the tech way too confusing, or they just didn't own the required smartphone. And low-income residents often didn't have the reliable cellular data you need to use the app on the go. So this well-intentioned AI inadvertently created a harsh digital divide. It literally meant only a specific, privileged segment of the city got to enjoy the financial and environmental rewards. So how do we fix a mess like that? Well, the city had to rapidly course-correct, and their solutions give us a really great blueprint. First off, they introduced physical reward cards linked to the smart bins, giving everyone a completely non-digital alternative to the smartphone app. Next, they actually hosted digital literacy workshops at local libraries to help older folks get comfortable with the system. And finally, to cool down growing community fears about the app tracking personal household waste habits, the city published crystal-clear data transparency statements. They guaranteed that only the categories of recycling were tracked, absolutely no personal identities. It's a perfect example of why inclusive design isn't just some tech buzzword. It's absolutely mandatory if we want public infrastructure to actually work. Moving on from local city streets to the massive global supply chains of big tech. Section 3. Robots versus recycling jobs. 1.2 million. That's the number of iPhones that Apple's AI-driven Daisy robot can disassemble every single year. It's a truly staggering figure. I mean, it represents an incredible leap forward in automated material recovery, and it's a huge, vital step toward a closed-loop supply chain for consumer electronics where absolutely nothing goes to waste.
So, the crucial point is, this creates a massive dilemma. On one hand, we get incredible environmental and health wins. The AI robot boosts processing efficiency and keeps some seriously toxic materials, like lead and lithium, safely away from human hands and lungs. But on the other hand, widespread global adoption of these robots threatens to wipe out a massive amount of informal labor. In the Global South, manual e-waste disassembly provides crucial, baseline income for thousands upon thousands of workers. If giant tech corporations suddenly automate all their recycling in-house, they're pulling those valuable raw materials and the jobs that go with them directly away from developing nations. That has the very real potential to severely widen global economic inequality.
To address this exact ethical tension, Apple actually took a pretty interesting step. They publicly offered to license Daisy's patents to other organizations and researchers. By actively democratizing the tech, the goal is to prevent any single corporation from holding a monopoly on advanced recycling. But the researchers in our source paper point out that this step, while totally good, isn't quite enough on its own. For a truly just transition, we need to share this technology globally and heavily invest in local, formal recycling facilities in the global south. Because that is exactly where displaced informal workers can be safely reskilled to operate and manage these advanced AI systems themselves.
For our third case study, let's bring it a bit closer to home, right into our own closets. Section 4. Biased AI in circular fashion.
Circular fashion, the whole cycle of buying and selling secondhand clothes online, is absolutely booming right now. But a startup using a proprietary AI pricing algorithm discovered a shocking problem during an internal audit. The AI was systematically recommending lower resale prices for items originating from less affluent neighborhoods. And on top of that, it was drastically undervaluing plus-size clothing, completely ignoring the brand name or the item's condition. Now, it's really crucial to understand the AI wasn't intentionally trying to be malicious. It was simply reflecting deeply ingrained historical biases hidden within the massive data sets it had been trained on. It was essentially acting on harmful proxies, using things like zip codes to unfairly judge what a garment was worth. It's just a crazy example of how insidious unmonitored data can be.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we can actually solve these problems when we catch them in time. The startup took 3 very clear, actionable steps. Step 1, they conducted an independent AI audit to find the exact root of the bias. Step 2, they actively ripped all location-based data out of the algorithm entirely. This forced the AI to evaluate the clothing purely on objective things like brand, material quality, and condition. And step 3, they added a transparency tool right on the app, allowing sellers to see exactly what metrics were being used to calculate their specific price.
This really highlights a crucial industry-wide shift that needs to happen. We absolutely have to abandon the whole concept of a black box society, where AI decisions are totally opaque, overly complex, and completely unquestionable. Instead, we've got to embrace human-in-the-loop oversight. By giving their users a simple, straightforward way to appeal an AI-generated price they felt was unfair, the startup made sure human beings kept the ultimate control. That human safety net is absolutely vital for correcting those inevitable algorithmic screw-ups and keeping the public's trust intact. So how do we take these specific, individual fixes and scale them up into real global rules? Section 5, Fixing the Ethical Black Box.
Here is the global roadmap for governance that the research lays out. First, we have overarching frameworks like the proposed EU AI Act, which mandates strict transparency and traceability for algorithms. Crucially, Article 14 of that act explicitly requires human oversight for any systems deemed high risk. Basically, keep humans in charge of the machine. Then we have the OECD principles, which demand that AI must actively promote inclusive growth so marginalized groups aren't just left in the dust in the name of progress. And finally, for individual privacy, the paper strongly advocates for privacy-enhancing technologies, or PETs. A great example of this is federated learning. It essentially allows an AI to analyze patterns and learn from data directly on your device without ever actually collecting, uploading, or exposing your personal information to a central server. These frameworks are exactly what we need to prevent corporate greenwashing and ensure that AI actually serves society as a whole. Let's move to our final slide and see how this all builds into our key takeaway. The successful, real-world adoption of circular economy principles is tightly interwoven with the ethical deployment of AI. It isn't just about doing the right thing morally, although obviously that matters. It's a pragmatic, operational necessity. Just think about it. If an AI system excludes the elderly from civic programs, displaces thousands of vulnerable workers without a safety net, or prices people's clothes unfairly based on a zip code, the public is going to rightfully reject the technology. To make the circular economy actually work and scale up enough to save the planet, we first have to build undeniable public trust. And we only build that trust through ethical, transparent, and fair AI systems.
So after seeing exactly how these complex algorithms operate behind the scenes, I've got a question for you. Would you trust an AI to price your used clothes or to manage your neighborhood's recycling system? Let us know down below in the comments. We would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this fascinating intersection of tech, human behavior, and sustainability. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and keep questioning the tech that shapes our world.